The CIA are monsters. I was a man, and they put my brain in a tissue.
So, some of you fellow cartoon fans here on YouTube may have seen video retrospectives discussing multiple examples of animated TV series receiving theatrical adaptations. I personally love Family Guy ambassador Toonrific Tariq's trilogy on the subject in particular. Now, these inspire me to do my own retrospective anthology video talking about a similar subject that isn't as widely recognized, theatrical sorts based on animated TV series. Yes, this is the smaller scale alternative to making a full-on hour-and-a-half long feature film that still serves a purpose to promote something you can get on TV for free. I won't go in depth on literally every possible example today. I'm just focusing on some personal favorites that stand out to me. Also, even though some of these sorts would also appear in the main TV series themselves, they would need the intention of being made for the big screen in order to qualify for their own section. Oftentimes, just like a bigger movie adaptation would, these tend to stand out by having a higher animation quality than a typical episode for TV. That aspect I'm especially excited to go into more detail on as we finally begin looking at some big screen sorts based on small screen toons.
And now we're pleased to bring you our feature presentation.
Good morning, USA!
Why not start with this one? Because A, American Dad was recently trending with the news that it's coming back to Fox after over a decade on TBS, and B, it's the basis for my most popular Instagram reel currently. So as you may know, during the cancellation of Family Guy, Seth MacFarlane and the two other guys created American Dad as a replacement for it, with little anticipation that the Griffin family would soon come back following its success with DVD sales and Adult Swim reruns. Nevertheless, the idea of a forthcoming sophomore cartoon from the mind behind the most trendy cancelled animated sitcom seemed to be enough justification for a theatrical sort attached to some Drew Barrymore movie. Within its 3-minute length time, the new CIA, also known as Inside the CIA, does a great job taking the simple approach of having Stan Smith introduce the viewers to himself, his job at the CIA, and his quirky family back home. The show's premise, main character personalities, and overall subversive nature are all perfectly established in a straight-to-the-point manner. But the thing I love the most about this short, and the main reason why I made that YouTube short/Instagram reel in the first place, is the animation quality. By the standards of a Seth MacFarlane cartoon, it is a step up from what we get on Family Guy or the main American Dad series itself, due to the stronger poses, like when Haley gets tased by Stan, and a generally higher frame count in the character animation, such as this shot of Francine tripping. Only the earlier episodes of Family Guy, or that one time they spent like $1 million tracing Stewie Griffin over Jerry Mouse, could come close to topping it. Allegedly, the amazing Rough Draft Korea did overseas production on Inside the CIA. I say allegedly because the end credits only list the writers and voice cast. In any case, looking at Rough Draft Studios' filmography on Wikipedia was how I found out about the existence of Inside the CIA in the first place back in 2012, as I had become a bigger fan of American Dad. However, I wasn't able to find the short until late 2021 when I watched the Wacky Dowies video ranking PBS Kids shows, in which the prologue used a quip of American Dad that had me thinking, why does this American Dad quip look better animated than usual? Is it what I think it is? Yep, it was, and I loved it within an instant. While some may argue American Dad didn't find its footing until the 2-part episode Stan of Arabia, I'd argue otherwise given how perfect of a short and sweet introduction to the Smith family Inside the CIA was.
Spots, spots, spots! Spots, spots, spots!
In the year 2002, we got free, count 'em, free TV-based animated movies. No, Scooby-Doo doesn't count. None of them were blockbusters, but they each got a perk regardless. The Wild Thornberrys movie got an Oscar nomination for Best Original Song. Hey Arnold the movie, inspired Craig Bartlett to take 15 years to come out with a better movie, and the Powerpuff Girls movie was attached with a short film based on the source material sister series, Dexter's Laboratory. This is another one I highlighted in a YouTube short, but now I'll go into longer detail this time. Like I said in that video, the plot of Chicken Scratch isn't the most special thing about it, and it isn't too different from an average episode with a long-suffering boy genius and his annoying older sister. Dexter wakes up with a case of the chickenpox, and Dee Dee, Maggie, being the stupid sister she is, tells him a nonsensical origin story of chickenpox, warning him not to scratch or else he'll turn himself into KFC material. If you're already familiar with the formula of regular Dexter's Lab episodes, you'd know exactly where this will go. But it's the art direction and the fact that series creator Genndy Tartakovsky storyboarded and animated most of it in-house at Cartoon Network Studios that makes Chicken Scratch one of the series' most fascinating episodes. And because Dexter's Laboratory is already an intentionally limited show with its UPA-esque animation style, this short stands out because there is extra fluidity in Dexter and Dee Dee's movements and a particular sense of strong attention to expressive character layouts, not seen since the earliest Season 1 segments. Genndy partially being a one-man animation studio is an admirable effort comparable to some Looney Tunes sorts, like Rabbit Rampage and The Whole Idea having only one animator, or on the topic of Cartoon Network, the late Seymour and Croker provided most of Space Ghost Coast to Coast newer animation assets. A decade later, Genndy would also be the primary animator of Goodnight Mr. Foot, a short based on his smash hit Hotel Transylvania film. Before he returned to make Dexter's final segment, Comedy of Feathers, Chicken Scratch was the last time Genndy worked with the boy genius who made him famous, so he could spend his time on Samurai Jack. According to character designer Chris Battle, production on this short actually predated the start of Chris Savino's role as showrunner of Dexter's Lab. I know for some people, Chicken Scratch is an uncomfortable episode of the show due to the extreme details of Dexter's burning red chickenpox. In fact, this may be the show at its most Ren and Stimpy-like, thanks to such grossness and unhinged expressions. Also, Dee Dee telling Dexter the silly chickenpox story is no different than Ren's toothache, where Stimpy warns Ren about what happens when his teeth aren't brushed, and how there's a nerve ending fairy who collects spare nerve endings. For the most part, I'm able to look past these overly detailed chickenpox and focus on admiring the artistry of Genndy Tartakovsky and Craig Kellman. Come on, which is worse, Dexter with chickenpox or the Powerpuff Girls with sunburns? Oh, and one more thing, the graphical presentation of Dee Dee's story is clearly paying homage to this Tex Avery MGM short, The Farm of Tomorrow. It makes sense for Genndy to reference a classic theatrical cartoon from the Turner Library while making his own theatrical cartoon for the Turner Library. Overall, this may be my personal favorite theatrical short based on an animated series, and a peak example of Dexter's Laboratory being a hilarious Cartoon Network classic. Oh, and congrats to Genndy for getting his next film, Fixed, rescued by Netflix, and I can't wait to see which scene our pal Joanna worked on.
Hey, CatDog! CatDog! Alive when it's a CatDog.
Whether you love it or hate it, CatDog is one of those cartoons that's synonymous with 90s Nickelodeon. Although, as I grew older, the more I think I might have overestimated my own love for the series. It's still a generally enjoyable show, don't get me wrong, but I don't think I can look at CatDog the same way again after learning that Nickelodeon once saw more potential with this series, more than a certain Square dude. Seriously, a 100 episode order? With that said, it was guaranteed that Nick wanted to promote their hottest new Nicktoon with the release of a movie based on what was already their biggest Nicktoon at the time, Rugrats. Similar to the American Dad short I talked about earlier, this is an excellent summary of what the TV series is like. It's a simple story involving Cat, who's expecting a prize to be won through a radio contest, getting endlessly tortured by the canine instincts of Dog, who chases a tennis ball thrown by that little blue prick named Winslow all around their town of Nearburg. Oh yeah, and the Greaser Dogs chase CatDog as usual too. This is the most gorgeously animated short I talked about in this collection so far, and the best that CatDog has ever looked, hands down. The characters are noticeably in a darker color tone than the series, but that's not as worthy of mentioning as the animation smoothness and how the facial expressions are pushed as we watch this wild tennis ball chase take place, and even during the moments leading up to it. Even the storyboards for Fetch, as seen on series creator Peter Hannon's website, show off how the energetic poses were translated into final animation successfully. If there's anything I don't like about this short, despite it being a typical mean-spirited CatDog story, it's the misconception that Fetch was the show's pilot episode instead of Doggone, which had its original 1997 cut resurfaced some years ago, similar to the SpongeBob pilot. This misconception makes no sense for a couple of reasons. One, Rube, one of the Greaser Dogs, is clearly in his finalized design instead of his earlier one seen in Doggone. And two, not counting its sneak peek after the Kids' Choice Awards in April, CatDog as a series already began airing regularly on Nickelodeon in October 1998, 1 month before the Rugrats movie was released. By contrast, when the Hey Arnold pilot was paired with Harriet the Spy, that was 3 months before the show premiered in October 1996. Probably it's because of that why people think Fetch is CatDog's pilot. One other disappointing thing about Fetch is the fact that it's currently the only one of these sorts featured here, where its original theatrical print is currently lost media. The Rugrats movie's home media releases replaced it with a different CatDog sort, Winslow's Home Videos, which along with the Christmas special was actually the earliest episode of the show I remember seeing. So you can currently only watch Fetch as it appears on the main CatDog series with its original opening and closing titles removed. Also, while I was browsing CLG Wiki, Audio Visual Identity Database, I learned that Nickelodeon had logos at the start of their theatrical sorts. Of course, the one seen on Fetch, featuring Slap T Pooch from the Nickelodeon Movies logo in the Rugrats movie. But this one for Hey Arnold's pilot, made by the legendary Mo Willems, was found. Hopefully the theatrical cut of Fetch resurfaces, much like how the one for the Animaniacs sort did. Nevertheless, when it comes to the quality of Fetch by CatDog standards, to quote Cat himself, "It just doesn't get any better than this."
Let's all go to the lobby.
Now, I should have said this at the start, but there are a total of 5 sorts, plus honorable mentions, I plan on highlighting in this video, meaning we are now at the halfway point. If you're enjoying this retrospective so far, please remember to hit the like button, subscribe for more cartoon nerdiness like this, and hit the bell so you won't miss them. Also, please consider supporting me on Ko-fi, where you can commission me to make a review of your own choice of a single cartoon episode, and buy my new ebook about my original characters. Thanks. Alright, let's come back from the lobby and to the Cedar Room.
Never boring even for a minute. It's my world and we're all living in it.
Obviously, Timon and Pumbaa were born as movie stars, being my favorite characters in my favorite Disney animation film, the original Lion King. But this short film starring the two isn't just a simple reminder of the 1994 film's roaring success. It is specifically based on the Meerkat and Warthog duo's screwball comedy TV series for the Disney Afternoon syndication block. I'm typically not too crazy about the Disney Afternoon lineup of shows compared to the more underrated One Saturday Morning cartoons, but The Lion King's Timon and Pumbaa, as it's formally titled, is easily my favorite out of the bunch. If you want a good Ren and Stimpy substitute from Disney, but don't want to bother with Snookums and meat, then the Timon and Pumbaa series is a perfect choice. Going back to this particular short, as you may have guessed, it features Timon, voiced not by Nathan Lane, but rather one of his 2 stand-ins, Kevin Shawn, singing the Ben E. King song, Stand By Me, made popular by the 1986 movie of the same name. The amusement factor comes from the irony of the physical gags that happens to our poor pal Pumbaa, contradicting Timon telling his warthog chum that the latter will be safe and sound so as long as he, quote, stands by the former. A part of my mind wonders if this would work better if Timon was the butt of these random unfortunate events instead of the more sweethearted Pumbaa, given how Timon is the jerkier half of the duo, so he'd often get what's coming to him. But that's a nitpick with an inability to distract me from the overall visual beauty of Stand By Me. Back in the 90s, Disney had quite a few satellite studios across the globe to work on production of their animated TV series, direct-to-video features, and even some of their theatrical movies. One of the most lauded of such divisions was Walt Disney Animation Australia, and justifiably so. This 3-minute Timon and Pumbaa short alone is a perfect example of their specialty in fluid and precise character animation on an above-average TV budget. The regular series, including the episodes animated in Australia, already contains some beautiful animation that is acceptable enough for a theatrical presentation, but Stand By Me just expands upon such beauty, especially with the aid of the nighttime lighting. Honestly, I sense a small competition between this and Fetch for the title of best looking short discussed in this video. But overall, this is some great directional work from Steve Moore, an underrated animation veteran whose credits also include animating on the now 30-year-old cult classic A Goofy Movie, directing the Christmas classic Olive the Other Reindeer, and making this unique Red Riding Hood parody for Disney, which I'd love to give my extended thoughts on someday. Now, fans of the Timon and Pumbaa series may know that this isn't the only music video they sung on it. The duo performed other songs, including the infamous one that got Disney into legal trouble, but Stand By Me was the lucky one to receive a big screen release attached to Tom and Hook, which happens to star young Simba himself, Jonathan Taylor Thomas. Admittedly, however, its position as a primary sort to highlight in this retrospective is a bit of a cheat because it actually aired as a segment on the TV show 2 months earlier. To add more confusion, if you were to go on Disney Plus to watch it, the theatrical cut of Stand By Me with its full credits rolling next to the singing frogs is shown, instead of the music video version that this Timon and Pumbaa half hour was typically presented with. Either way, I can't see why there wouldn't be any intentions to create this sort for theaters first. The production value is just so darn good here. It's too bad this wasn't among the few segments of Timon and Pumbaa where Nathan Lane actually got to reprise his role as the meerkat. I'm sure the budget for Stand By Me could have afforded him, but Kevin was indeed a good singer regardless. I don't know what else to say other than to check out this short if you're a Lion King fan, and to watch the Timon and Pumbaa series in general in case you haven't. Okay, let's speed run through some sorts that didn't get to have a dedicated section, either due to the video getting long enough as it is, or simply because I didn't love them as much as the 5 I'm highlighting today. Even though I saw the Bob's Burgers movie in theaters, I had virtually no awareness of this promotional short until recently, and I'm glad I checked it out on YouTube. The plot of the Belcher kids doing a questionable song and dance at a talent show reminds me of Do the Barkman from The Simpsons, and you can bet that it is on par with that music video in the Sakuga department. Seriously, the animation is spectacular. Definitely a funny song from Yakko, Wacko, Dot, and Dr. Scratch and Stiff, but with this being the one time the Steven Spielberg produced TV series got a moment on the big screen, the animation quality could have been higher. Like, have TMS in Japan do it instead of Wang Film in Taiwan. This wild card chase is tied with the 1993 TV series in which the titular Panther could actually speak with the same voice as Panic, but as nowhere near as distracting as him suddenly in the Cow and Chicken universe for some reason. Yes, I know David Feast co-directed this short, but the animation and designs are still distracting to the point where he should have been given a full director credit. Also, this bird screams like Homer Simpson. For a while, this was my only real taste of Warren Faust's stylist take on the DC Comics superheroines, even after the show debuted a year later. I'm currently not a huge fan of DC superhero girls anyway, but I can't say that this particular short was a waste of time. No pun intended. And finally, while it isn't a proper short film, this National Amusement Cedar Policy trailer featuring the Real Monsters gang is an interesting rarity worth noting, but it doesn't beat the one with the Sesame Street Muppets though. Also, it's a real damn shame the Policy trailer featuring Ren and Stimpy never got made beyond Bob Camp's beautiful storyboards. Seriously, I'll link you to these in the description. They're one out of a million reasons why Bob Camp is superior than John Kay.
Now, kiddies, I have a very important announcement to make.
Sit down and stop ruining my night off!
Alright, I hope you still have popcorn left in your bowl from the last time you went to the lobby, because now it's time to conclude our special presentation with...
A baby's gotta do what a baby's gotta do.
Hands down the most successful and publicized out of every sort we talked about today, not only because it's based on America's longest running TV cartoon of all time, and not only because it was attached to a highly profitable Ice Age sequel, but it also had the prestigious honor of receiving an Oscar nomination for Best Animated Short Film. So the Simpsons crew truly succeeded in making their own answer to a Pixar short in more ways than one. 5 years after he brought us the Simpson family's epic theatrical adventure in 2007, and 25 years after he helped bring them to life via charming shorts on the Tracy Ullman Show, legendary animation director David Silverman cooked up a splendid pantomime cartoon starring the littlest Simpson, Maggie. Because she's a baby who can't speak, her position as a star, and the choice to tell this story from her perspective, gave The Longest Daycare a universal appeal that many animated shorts, both classic and contemporary, possess. The story in question is a sequel of sorts to the subplot from Season 4's A Streetcar Named Marge, due to Maggie being back at the dictatorial Ayn Rand School for Tots. While Miss Sinclair isn't there to confiscate her beloved pacifier again, Maggie is on a different mission, which is to protect her new caterpillar friend from getting smashed by her arch nemesis, the unibrowed baby Gerald, once the caterpillar completes its metamorphosis into a butterfly. I remember when I saw The Longest Daycare make its televised debut on Fox in February 2013 to hype up the Oscar night hosted by Seth MacFarlane, on which it was nominated, and thought it was simply cute and entertaining. I mean, there's only so much complexity you can do for a story focused on the baby Simpson. Nowadays, when I watch it as someone with a wiser mindset on the technicalities of animation and the production process of The Simpsons specifically, I have a couple of criticisms, but I definitely stand by my opinion that this is a great short. Getting the negatives out of the way, David Silverman's best days as the go-to guy for justifying The Simpsons being an animated sitcom instead of just a regular sitcom that happens to look like a crudely drawn comic strip have been long gone at this point. Outside of the constant Satan on the cast, and yes, I'm gonna pull up that Peter Griffin meme, hope you're happy, there isn't too much going on with the character animation side of things, in which if you could put The Longest Daycare beside a season 23 episode of the show, the former looks like an infinite step up. However, the aspects that do let The Longest Daycare validate its role as a theatrical short are indeed there. David's storyboards offer some complex staging, and the usage of CGI came in very handy. In fact, the whole short came with the gimmick of being compatible with 3D glasses, and for damn sure they squeezed every bit out of said gimmick more than that one Bugs Bunny short from 1954, where literally the only 3D element was the WB shield. My favorite bit of character acted through the animation comes from Maggie's heartbroken reaction to what we think was the butterfly getting hit by the window blinds, while a sample of that famous Italian opera plays in the background. While it's no Homer's triple bypass heart attack, it does the job in giving us a strong pose that may be funny, but could also prove many people correct when they argue that this 4-minute Simpsons short has more genuine pathos to it than the entire Ice Age movie it's attached to. Speaking of being funny, how could I overlook the humor? Since this is The Simpsons we're talking about, despite the lack of dialogue, the so-subversive cynical style of humor is clearly present through the many visual gags in the foreground and background. No way was it gonna play it straight with a short starring cute babies, especially with the freakish little terror named Gerald as the antagonist. But as funny as The Longest Daycare is, it's also heartfelt, with Maggie finding comfort in the form of an innocent caterpillar turned cocoon turned butterfly that makes her stay at the daycare slightly less miserable than it could have been. But overall, the huge success and amount of praise that this Maggie Simpson short got was warranted. But was I bummed out when I lost the Oscar to Disney's Paperman? Not really, because Paperman was just as beautifully made, and Disney needed it after a 43-year-long hiatus. And speaking of the Mouse House, by the time they acquired 20th Century Fox, and thus the Simpsons brand, David Silverman has been directing more and more shorts, mostly for Disney+. They're of varying levels of quality, mostly with the purpose of reminding you that Homer Simpson and Goofy are both owned by the same company now, but the most noteworthy short in the post-Disney era is Playdate with Destiny, which is just as colorful and amusing as its 2012 precursor. There's both good news and bad news with this one. The good news is that the intentions of The Longest Daycare being like a Pixar short was able to manifest into reality because Playdate with Destiny actually got to precede a Pixar film in theaters. The bad news is it was in front of Onward. Nothing against the movie itself, it's like a B- entry in the Pixar canon that otherwise pales in comparison to Soul from the same year. It's more so the fact it was March 2020 when it got released. And if you don't understand what I mean, then you've been living under a rock with Patrick Star. Which means you're already an expert on quarantines. Anyway, I'm not going into further details on Playdate with Destiny sadly, due to this video already becoming long enough, but I'll conclude this section by sharing one of my favorite jokes. Why does this joke sound familiar?
Why?
Oh yeah! Before I properly conclude this video, I want to briefly bring up a short that was announced while I was editing the script. Order Up, starring SpongeBob and Squidward, released with Nickelodeon's Rihanna Smurfette stunt casting movie. Apparently they've been sitting on widely releasing this short for almost 15 years? What? Bruh, I know Nickelodeon has a habit of taking forever to release things domestically after they've been completed, but come on, with the exception of Vincent Waller, most of the main credited people don't even work on the show anymore. At least 2 of them are now dead. Oh well, I'm hoping this short, which is dialogue-free a la Reef Blower, will be worth the wait once I'm able to check it out. Well, that concludes my retrospective on the uncommon but still neat novelty of making theatrical shorts based on TV cartoons instead of full-length movies. I hope you enjoyed this video all throughout. Well, unless you had to go to the bathroom to floss out the popcorn kernel stuck in your teeth. Good thing you can always rewind here on YouTube. So let me know in the comments which of the shorts I talked about was your personal favorite. Were there any that I neglected to mention? Also, please let me know if you'd like to see more of this type of retrospective anthology videos. I got a couple of more ideas for other ones, so the encouragement from you guys would be much appreciated. And as always, please remember to like, subscribe, hit the bell, and drop a popcorn emoji to confirm that you watched this video until the very end. Thanks for watching and take care.